Yo, 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 how we doing today? How are we all? Good? All right, we're live. We should have no issues with lag today. I'm at home and I don't usually have issues here, but I also figured out what was wrong at my home office that was creating lag and throttling my upload speed, but we should be good. We should be good. We should be fine today. I don't expect to have any issues this time. So a nice smooth stream, another night shift. Well, I'll try to keep you entertained. Hope you're all right. But a nice smooth stream we should see and should be in good shape. So I hope everybody's doing well this evening. I hope you're all good. Um, Actually, a decent amount of news, sort of. Um, not an enormous amount, but there have certainly been people saying things and kind of confirming a lot of what I've talked about in the last couple of weeks. And, you know, I think that at least that should maybe set people in terms of their mind, in terms of all that at ease as to our activity in the window. We got some words from Ornstein. We got some words from Laurie Whitwell and the athletic guys and all of that. Yeah, it's actually quite interesting, Naveen, on that. I have to say, I gotta be honest with you guys. Um, the aggregators today. What do you guys? I say this sometimes, but listen, I understand if there are people running some of these aggregator accounts and your first language is not necessarily English, and your language is not necessarily English, then it can be hard maybe to follow some of the things that were out there. But I watched and listened to Ornstein's video. I watched and listened to the Talk of the Devils, and good Lord, guys, what has been aggregated is not what they said. I recommend a listen, but we will talk about it because there were some quite interesting things in there. And you know, and it's quite the opposite of what kind of is being said at the moment. Like I saw some people come away from Ornstein's thing and think Ekitike is more on. It's not. It's the opposite. He played that down really, really heavily, actually. Um, but hey, we'll talk about all of that in a second. As you come into the stream, make sure to drop a like, and let's get going. Um, and let's get going, okay? Um, and Full-time Devils is too reactionary. Well, I mean, everybody's a little bit upset sometimes, and everybody can get a little bit upset sometimes. Was Ten Hag part paid by Pep to deliberately sabotage United? You never know. SEG and all of that. You never know. Let's get this little poll up here. Lots to talk about today. Quite a lot to talk about. In fact, yeah, we'll correct Naveen. We'll get to that for sure. We will definitely playing Path of Exile with you on my second monitor, chill night. That's the way to do it. Second monitor. But yeah. Okay, what do we want to talk about? I actually have like an agenda to talk about today. We're gonna start with sales in progress. All right, cool. So let's get into it. Okay. So, sales. So sales. It's actually again kind of moving, and one of the things that David Ornstein was saying in there is, we'll talk about Mbumo, but everything's pretty much fine there. But one of the things David Ornstein was saying was that, United again kind of want to sell before they move for like that third player. This was reiterated as well on the Talk of the Devils and all of that. Now, look, as I've said before, there's truth to this for sure, in that this is the way that United are approaching the window from a discipline standpoint. This is the way that they're approaching the window from the standpoint of how they need to get things done. They need and want to be responsible to balance the books on the sales in addition to making purchases. Now, if you look at and kind of analyze the books yourself, and look at the financials yourself, you'll come to a bit of a different conclusion in terms of what they can do. But it's not really important what they can do, right? It's more important what the responsible way of acting is, because from their perspective, they want to keep the finances correctly in check, right? As I was kind of, I can't remember when I was explaining this, but I explained it a few times in the last couple of weeks. And if they go and spend a bunch of money now, they're really taking from next year without sales. And they could do it. They can get away with it. We won't be in violation of PSR. We'd be borrowing the money. We'd be doing all of that. But it would be, in a way, quite irresponsible to do something like that, and then, not have the money next year for all of the things that need to get done next year, especially if United were to somehow fail to get, Europe again. Then it would become even more kind of disastrous at this point in time. So that's a genuine concern, and the reason why they're working on a sales. Jason, thank you for the donation. If you had a message, type it again, all right? And I can read it out. So that's the position that they're taking. Now, what's mentioned often is Rashford and Garnacho about raising funds, and that's true. We'll get to that in a minute. What's the deadline for that financial recklessness? If we're smart, then we will not have to take these risks in the future. But the point being that it may not do anything for us to just go blow all the money right now anyway, and I'll kind of explain that a little bit. The Rashford and Garnacho situations are not necessarily the biggest catalysts for us spending money. Okay. Garnacho, I guess, in particular. Okay, thanks, Jason. Appreciate that. Garnacho in particular. Garnacho provides us with a one-time purchase, a one-time sale, that gives us, sure, a good bit of money, PSR. We're not able to spend because of PSR, okay, right now. Cash is a little more important. Futures is a bit more important than that. If we sell Garnacho, we're probably going to replace him with more wages than he's on. Okay, so it's going to wash in that respect too. But at the end of the day, the bigger ones are the guys who are on substantial wages at any point in time here. Like the guys who have big amortization and wages are actually, to some degree, will have a bigger effect on our financials. And I'll kind of explain why. Again, you take Rashford and Garnacho, one-time purchase, one-time sale, wages off, okay? That's what changes things for you. One time. Sancho, Anthony, Hojlund, you're talking about, I don't know what, 14, 15 million a year in most cases in terms of their amortization, right? So think of it like cost. When Sir Jim did that interview and he said, we're paying X for this player this year, we're going to pay X for this player this year, we're going to pay X for this player this year. that we don't even want, then those are the bigger problems. Hello, Alejandro. And that's the real problem at the end of the day. Because you're talking about Rashford has a big wage. He does. He costs us 15 million a year. Sancho's money, Sancho's amortization alone costs us 15 million a year. Then you add his wages on top. He's costing us 30 million a year for Jadon Sancho, right? Antony is costing us 15 million a year in amortization, and then another 7 million a year in wages. Hojlund is costing us 15 million a year in amortization, and then another 5, 6, 7 million in wages. So you have to bear in mind that those guys are hurting us more than Rashford and Garnacho. And effectively, calm down, everything's okay to burn into your brain. Effectively, when you think about it, it's kind of hard to explain this, but like, let's say you're making $1,000 a month. Okay. Let's say that's your income. That's very little. Okay. Let's say you get paid $1,000 a month, right? And you're like, I need a new car, and a new car is going to cost me $100. All right. $100. It's going to cost me $100 a month for a year. A new car will cost me that. Now, a sale of 800 is good. Gives you money right away. You can put that $100 down and you'll have $700 left over. That feels good. But if you are able to, let's say, pay off a debt that's costing you $100 a month, it's even better. Because then you're getting, you have that confidence in your budget being sensible. Does that make sense? Like, if you can reduce the things that are costing you so much, then you can replace them and it'll keep you balanced. It's better than a one-time sale. I mean, anybody will tell you that. Like, when you're doing a budget for personal or for business, one-time sale is great. It can give you a good bit of revenue, but getting off recurring charges gives you a lot more, feels better and a lot more space as well. So these ones are big. So these ones are very big. As soon as you sell a guy who's charging you 15, we demand a car repayment in PowerPoint. As soon as you sell a guy who's charging 15 million a year and you wipe them off the books, you can go spend that because that's money you are budgeting right now. So like, take this season, for example. Through the course of this year, we're looking to, and I won't go too far on the finances. I know it can get boring. But you take this season in general, you go 15, you have a break even season, a decent financial year, and then, you go into summer. Well, if you can get rid of guys who are 15 million a year in costs, then those people, you can replace them with another guy worth 15 million a year in costs, and you're still at break even. Do you understand what I mean? And you can look at that being the same moving forward. So that's why it's so important to get these guys off who have these charges. Now, wages are of course just the same. With Rashford, it's an ongoing thing and all of that, but it's the ongoing charges that make the biggest difference to them. It's almost like a sale, you know what I mean? It's basically the same. It's even better when you can get big amortization charges off the books. It's a big improvement. Now, Rashford causes less than Sancho by quite a lot. You know what? Here's the crazy part. All right, I'm gonna say something that you may not like, and I did this beforehand. All right. Over the lifetime of Rashford's existence at United, okay, this is why I think it's the way that things get stated is a little over the top. All right, the entirety of Rashford's existence at United, including all the good years, everything in between, has cost us less than Rasmus Hojlund has cost us so far. You understand what I mean by that? if you add up all of his wages that he's earned over the course of his career at United, even through now, it costs less than Rasmus Hojlund has cost us in transfer fee and wages so far. And that is absolutely unbelievable. And that's why I think it's a little bit like, that's why I always think the way that certain people get treated is unfair. When people go so hard on Rashford, sure, it could be time to go. It can be the best time to go. That's all good. You know what I mean? Like, it can be right that he can be the time to leave, right? That can be totally okay. But at the same time, he's done so much more for us. So much more for us as a player. And you look at the way that the narrative gets, you know what I mean? The way that the narrative gets on players and how it's brutal it is. Like, he's wasting all this money. We've wasting so much money per week on Rashford and all that. It's just too much. That's why I don't think it's fair. Because he's won like 6 trophies at United. You know what I mean? He's helped us win a Europa League. He's helped us win multiple trophies over that period of time as an academy player, from 7 years old. And you look at that and you go, damn, man, like, that's not right. Right. The amount of anyway, that's all. That's my high horse. But the point being is that it's like I said, it can be the right time to leave. That's okay. But it's much worse when we buy players for a lot of money and then they completely fail. Okay, that's much worse. That's a much bigger problem. That much is for sure. That's why it's really risky. It's mushroom water. It's just water, guys. It's just water. It's just really risky when you spend enormous money on players and it doesn't work out. Very, very risky. But yeah, it's just not great. So, yeah, let's get into the specifics because I've been going on about that for quite a while. I never know when I start where I'm going to end up talking on this. There's no revisionism. It's just, I think it would be nice to appreciate that value for money. Rashford has probably been one of the best value for monies we've had as a player over the last 10 years, and that's cool. That's all. And I will always appreciate that, despite the fact that he's leaving. I will appreciate that. Because he did a lot over 10 years. So, moving on to the actual sales. Rasmus Hojlund, there's still a lot more talk from Hojlund in Italy of them moving forward to him. And there was some words specifically from Fabrizio on this as well that seemed to confirm that Inter definitely moving on this, trying to work on it. They'll want a loan. Otherwise, they'll want to, if they cannot get a loan, then they would like to buy a player for, buy him for a lower fee. I think that was what was said, something like that. But yeah, that's a good thing, and I think that we can definitely sell him to Inter. It seems like this is one that is happening. One of the things I really want to mention again is that you can't forget the whole PSR aspect of where things are at in football. Prior to July 1, a lot of clubs are having to balance the books. A lot of clubs are having to, keep in mind the store. They're trying to sell a little bit here. They're trying to just get a few little deals done, but they're going to have to be fairly careful. Now, yeah, Inter are buying Bonnie, but they're looking for 2 forwards. They are looking for 2 forwards. They wanted both the whole time, so that's not an issue. They got their new coach in, and they're still on track chasing for Rasmus Hojlund. So it seems as though it is a solid target that they want to bring in. And this is of course very, very good news. Now, it was again mentioned a little bit more today about from Ornstein mentioned Hojlund again as a player that is probably on there to be sold. He's very likely to. I still think this is headed towards a sale, and the talks are obviously continuing, just at a slow pace. I don't know why they want to, and I've had that same question. Myself. Why would they want to? That much we don't really know. Why would they want two forwards? Are they going to sell Lautaro to somewhere? There was like a crazy rumor about Lautaro and Liverpool a while ago, but I mean, I have no idea. So regardless, they are interested. They do want him, and yeah, they'll probably look to some kind of loan with an obligation, or I would say more like an option, is what they wanted originally. We wanted a sale, and we're still kind of meeting somewhere in the middle. And but it does seem like it's moving. We're getting more talk out of the Italian side that they're kind of moving forward in stages on these deals to get forward to it. Taremi is leaving as well. Okay, fair enough. So that's good. Antony, again, as I stated before, Batiste would be coming back in for talks. They have come back in for talks. They're in progress on that deal. I think it's rather complicated. I don't think we will do the half and half type of like half owning rights thing. I'm not even sure we're allowed in England to do that. I don't think you can own half a player in an English club, but he wouldn't be registered with us, so technically it could be okay. I don't know, but I don't think we would do the half and half, but I think the concept would be we'd have to work out some sort of structured deal that would allow them to waive, and to not necessarily count all the PSR right off of the bat. So that's an interesting one. But this is moving. It is. Genuinely, these things are moving. And like I was saying the other day, this is what we're doing right now, is working on sales. During this kind of quiet period, we've got Cunha done, we've got Mbumo almost there, and they're working on sales very, very actively on this. And look, yes, it's very much up to agents and players and all of that to bring offers for them, but United are really, really active on this front. And I think that's what, Ornstein was kind of confirming, is that this is where we need to do it. This is what needs to happen next, and this is what the focus is on next at this point in time, and it is. I know that United are going further as well in terms of actually, I know that they are actively which they don't always do. I do know that they are actively seeking out potential landing spots for a few players, because they really do want to do whatever is possible to try to push these players through and get people out, which is of course totally necessary. So yeah, it's slow going, but they are strongly working on it. And bearing in mind, this is pretty much the quiet time. This mid-June is like when things are a little bit slow, a little bit stalled. Players are on vacation, people are on vacation, everybody's doing other shit, and it does take a while. Other names, the main names, obviously, Antony, Hojlund, and then Sancho. So obviously there's been more talk of Sancho to Napoli. The problem is of course these wages. These wages are the stumbling block for everything. Now, I think that the fee United were asking for, I think like United's consideration here in this deal is that the fee they're asking for is one that Napoli could probably actually take and would be okay with. And I don't think it's 25. I think they would accept, like I said this morning, 15 to 20, from my understanding, they would accept that kind of money for him. However, I think at least in the early part of the negotiation and sale aspect, that's not factoring in, Sancho and his wages. And the unknown here that I don't know, and it's not totally clear unless somebody, said it or not, is Sancho asking for the same wages he's getting now at Napoli? Because if that is the case, then it's as before, it will scupper every single deal. There's nobody on planet Earth who's paying those kinds of wages. And United aren't going to pay those kinds of wages. And I think what Fabrizio said is that, the Napoli would want him on either, if they can't get him to lower his wages, they want him on loan with United covering part of the wages. But like, it's confusing here because we don't want to loan him. We want to sell him. We want to get him off the books. And one of the main reasons we want to sell and get him off the books is then we can, if we get an amount in, it'll help us wipe the amortization out and improve our situation. But he only has 1 year left. So in terms of this loan, or in terms of this wage problem, well, a loan, what's the difference? Like, if we sell, I think that the problem that we have here, is that, again, United probably at the fee that they were willing to take from Napoli weren't talking about paying off Sancho's wages. But we will probably have to, because it seems like he's going to demand all his wages, and Napoli aren't going to give him those wages. So it's kind of just hilarious. I really don't know what he's thinking. I don't, and it was unclear what he's asking for from Napoli, because I'm confused about this wage thing in general. He only has 1 more year. He's only got 1 more year. So how much wages could we owe? We don't owe that much. Is he, but I think the problem is the wages we owe him. It's like 3 years worth of what wages he's going to be offered at Napoli. So he probably wants that money, and that's fine. But then we're going to have to ask for a higher fee, and it's probably above what Napoli want to pay. So I'm not sure how this plays out, and that's why it's difficult. United will have to raise the fee a bit for it to work to pay off Sancho if he's going to somewhere like Napoli, and that's going to be really, really difficult. So I guess we'll have to see what happens there, but it's moving. There's more inquiries, there's more talks happening. That's the important part. And as long as there's dialogue, then potentially there's some kind of a solution to this. And that's kind of the solution. So we'll have to see where that goes. Shaw and Mount, I do want to talk about them because I think outside of Anthony, Sancho, Hojlund, Rashford, and Garnacho, Shaw and Mount are the 2 guys that are, in a way, also on the block, on the chopping block. I've said it before, and I understand that it meets some conflict in terms of thought, because Ruben Amorim likes Mason Mount, and he does. But at the same time, I've said before, I know for a fact that at the management level, they're super unhappy with both, because the one thing they cannot stand that they've talked about or taken from my videos, who knows, but either way, it's obviously a talking point to them, is players that they're paying who cannot make it on the pitch. And they've been super unhappy with obviously the availability of the players far more than the ability. And that's kind of the dilemma here. The ability is not so much in question, because I think Ruben Amorim thinks both Shaw and Mount have the ability to be good players, but can they string games together enough? And you look at the costs involved. Now, they're both on the block, but at the same time, both are on such big wages and things like that it's just probably not going to happen. Like, I don't see them getting sold this year. I think that the people in charge would definitely sell them if they could. Hamza, what is the bigger obstacle for Gyokeres? Arsenal are making sales. Also, if we do push for Gyokeres, we're pause the Mbumo deal. A complicated answer to that, but I'll be specific about it. Okay, the bigger obstacle is Arsenal. Okay, if we needed to make it work, we could make it work. That would just be a question of timing, and it wouldn't mess up the Mbumo deal. No. It's about discipline and responsibility and all of that. But we'll get to the strikers thing in a minute, because I think there's an interesting kind of play here. But yeah, Arsenal is the biggest thing. That's the main thing. So Look, yeah, exactly, and it's kind of the same goes for Onana, right? Like when you look at them, Amorim likes Onana too. He would be sold if there was an easy way to sell him, but there's not. And so it's probably better, it's more likely that he stays and we don't have this uncertainty over the keeper position. And then we will as well look for, again, a younger keeper. So Shaw and Mount, I don't think they'll go. But, you can see it. Like, we're signing 10s left and right. Mason Mount's not going to be a starter next season. And that's probably a good thing, being able to just be like um, a rotation player and all that, at least can kind of stay fit. So they'll probably be here next season, but they're kind of the ones on the chopping block that are just near impossible to sell. Now, I don't know how long Shaw has left on his contract. Obviously, Mason Mount, this was just his second season. After the next one, he'll be third season. At that point in time, if he has a decent season, maybe something could happen, but you never know. Shaw should be after the season, only 1 year left. Maybe at that point it'd be a good time to move him on, but we'll see. Martinez, I don't think there's much going on with that. I think that it's certainly a real interest, but I think it's being heavily pushed by his agent at this point. I think it's just being heavily pushed there. Because the reality is, when you look at it from United's side, it's made like fairly clear that Onana's probably not going to leave now this summer. And we wouldn't be buying Emi Martinez to go with Onana. So, not much is happening there, is it? Now, if a big offer came in for Onana, could that whole situation change? Yes, but it's unlikely that is going to happen. So I wouldn't expect anything on Emi Martinez at this point in time. Just because, again, we're not really in the market for that type of keeper with Onana staying. It's more like a young keeper. So, yeah, we're not paying 40 million in big wages for Emi Martinez right now. That's for sure. So there's that. Now, on Rashford and Garnacho, I mentioned those three. On Rashford and Garnacho, from my understanding of it, there's a bit of an expectation that interest will ramp up in July for them, and that it's more likely for something to happen in July for the two of them. Should it happen, and I still think it's going to be somewhat difficult, but it's more likely to be a bit later. A lot of clubs are kind of waiting to see on the situation. They obviously think that we're going to sell for less later on, but at the same time, there is this PSR thing once again where more clubs will be in the buying market after July 1st. And especially, I think, on the Garnacho front, that could open things up a bit there too. For Rashford, Barcelona still where he wants to go. And interestingly enough, there are some decent kind of reports coming out that Nico Williams' deal is not expected to block Marcus Rashford. Now, one of the attractions that Barcelona have had to Marcus Rashford is his flexibility position-wise, right, left, center. They may even see him much more as a striker than anything else. I could see that. I think he's better narrow these days. I could see, Lewandowski being your main striker as an older player. Then it might make a lot of sense, as a striker for Barcelona. So I think that he still believes that could happen, and I wouldn't say that is impossible, like, at all. So yeah, we'll see. I was kind of surprised. Yeah, Lewandowski is old, and like they obviously need people. You know what I mean? Like they very much need forwards, and so yeah, there's some talk on Barcelona side that it's not affecting, that the Nico Williams thing and Rashford is maybe not connected, and that they're for different positions and all of that. Now, but it remains to be seen. I think the bigger issue here will be, I think, later in the window, Barcelona will come back. I think there's a chance it's a loan again. But as long as, there's a little fee and some wages covered, that is the main thing that would help us. Obviously, money would be great, but so be it. If it's a loan and it's got a decent obligation or a decent option built in that they can execute, then so be it. That might be where we end up on this deal, but again, as long as most of the wages come off, then that's the main thing that's going to help us in this situation, even more than the money one time. So that might be what it is, but if he performs at Barcelona, he'll have buyers lining up left and right either way. So, and I honestly think he will. I honestly think he will. And I don't think you have to tear up trees and do insane at Barcelona, but I think it's a very settled team, a very good team, and he can be productive there. So that's okay. But yeah, after July 1st there. On Mbumo, it continues to we continue to work. We continue to be trying to solve it. But as I said, this is going to take a bit of time. What did David Ornstein say today? He says we're not there yet. So that's what I'm hearing. It's going to take a bit of time. But what is happening here, as I shared about that whole Spurs bullshit on Friday, Saturday, is that we're at a bit of a lock where we're saying, look, we don't want to go above these. And, Brentford are saying, well, we want, this pay. And what they're trying to do is get other people involved, get other bids, get other things to drive the price up. And the reason that we're relaxed and comfortable is because Mbuma doesn't want to go anywhere else. And that's why we did it this way. Mbuma doesn't want to go anywhere else. So Spurs aren't being encouraged to bid for him. That was all nonsense, because he doesn't want to go there. He wants to join United. He's not considering other bids. He's committed. And that's why this will happen. But, it is what it is. It can be irritating. It can be annoying. And it's frustrating when things are slow. But, it is what it is here, guys. It's just happening. It's just happening slowly. Yeah, it's just happening slowly. No way has Rasmus cost us more than Rashford. It's just bollocks. I mean, he cost 72 million there. So Rashford's been on 15 million for 3 years. So do 15 times 3. That equals 45. Okay. Now do 72 million and compare it to 45 and tell yourself which is the bigger number, 72 or 45. But anyway, look, things are happening. On this, they're still working. It's still slow. Brentford are trying to make a market. Brentford are trying to get other people involved. Exactly. That's what they tried with that Spurs bullshit, and that's what I said. It's not true. Like, it's just not true. They're not they're not in for him. Nobody is. And I mean, they are, obviously, but he's already turned them down. Newcastle have moved on. Arsenal have moved on. Tottenham have moved on. Everybody's moved on. So we don't really have anything to worry about here. Let's just leave it as is. And I know that it's annoying, but we've got time. We have 18 days until players leave. Or return, rather. We have 18 days until players return for the most part. 18 days to wait. You never know. Maybe Brentford will prefer to have the sale after July 1st or something too, and they'll be a little more flexible then. But the other factor in this is that they will sell, right? That's the other thing in this. They've agreed to sell. The type of club they are, where they're at, they've agreed to sell. And so there's really no world where this doesn't kind of occur. So that's okay. So we'll see. But they're trying to get other people involved, and I don't think there's anything for it. You see like, oh, there's other people in Europe who want Mbuma. Okay, he doesn't want to leave the Premier League. He wants to go to Manchester United. Just like you thought you got me. Well, finally we didn't, Mr. Delap. And I said for weeks that we probably weren't going to get you, and that you were going to go to Chelsea, as far as I've heard. For the people wondering about information, I think I was one of the only people who consistently said that I thought he was going to go to Chelsea based on what I heard. So, But no, we didn't actually. I don't think we ever really thought we were going to get Delap after a certain point. let's talk about Ruben Amorim. So one of the things, again, I will say, for anybody asking, what kind of info do you have? Well, these are the types of things. Prior to the end of the season, what did I say? I said that Ruben Amorim made a big stink and a big push over wanting to get players who are more ready, more proven, better. He wanted better players coming in. And I think what Laurie said today is that there's been a big push from Ruben Amorim to get in players who are more what's the word for it? Shit. He used a good word, didn't he? Ready, essentially. Who could produce now, who are ready to hit the ground running. That was the big push from Ruben Amorim at the end of the season. Now, this is where I wanted to say it seems to me that people were kind of on terms of the aggregation, maybe purposefully missing something, or you didn't hear it. He was talking about Victor Gyokeres. Now, I'm the only person who shared that information a while ago, that he made a push for Victor Gyokeres. He was talking about Victor Gyokeres in particular when he said that. That he had made a push for more ready players, and said, and he was talking about how he said he really likes Victor Gyokeres, and we assumed that it was off because of he was not going to be open to coming to a club without Europe, and it's kind of gone back and forth, and then there's Arsenal, and we'll see on this and that. And he said, he really likes Victor Gyokeres, and he made a push to get more ready-made established players in the door, people who could hit the ground running. And so that's why we moved for Victor Gyokeres, because of that. Not that he wasn't on our list, but because Amorim wants people who are ready to go in this areas. He said, fuck your 2028, I want it now. Right. Well, I think his feeling is that we won't make it to 2028 if we don't get some players to really produce. And they're not too old. They're all 5 players who will be here 5 more years. And yeah, but more ambitious. That's what I said. He wanted us to be more ambitious. Get guys who are more capable of doing it. Not impactful. There you go. More impactful. That was the right word. And that's the biggest thing that he pushed for. And that's why we went for him. Now, again, with Cunha and Mbeumo, it was the same thing. You noticed there was a point in time right around the end of the season where we went from we're talking about Delap, and then suddenly we were talking about Gyokeres and Mbeumo. And it was like, oh shit, hold on, let's go for it. And that was the idea. And that's what we're doing. And that's what Ruben Amorim wants, is to do that, and to be more ambitious in the purchasing. Now, I'll get to the striker thing in a moment, because that's really the major kind of plot point on this, okay, is that really it comes down to the attack. He wanted us to do a lot more in the attack. And when you look at our team, you look at the 5 games that are coming up, we need serious goals in the team if we're going to survive this season. But that's what Ruben Amorim wants. He's still pushing for us to get more ambitious with it, to get more established players, to get people ready to hit the ground running in his system and in his team. He's still very strongly pushing for that. He's got, it was funny because like I said this morning on a video, he has very high standards, and it's you can lose a lot of games and be a guy who has really, really high standards, because you could see how fucking how unaccepting he was of how bad we were this season, how much it hurt him. And then you see Omar saying, well, this is why we got him in early, so we could assess and see all this stuff. But you look at Amorim and you're like, Jesus, man, the guy takes losing and doing poorly worse than we do. I've never seen a manager look so stressed out during games at United, and we've stressed a hell of a lot of managers out. But good Lord, he takes it really, really rough how poor United are doing. And so I think he's really, really understanding that. Yeah, and so that's that's in our first game against Arsenal. I think it'll be really interesting to see where we're at by then. But there's a huge push from Ruben Amorim saying, "Look, I came in 6 months early. There's no money to spend during the season. You asked me to assess this team. You asked me to evaluate what we've got. I need you to go big on that. I need you to go bigger. I need you to really fix this because um, it's a big deal. You know what I mean? It's a very big deal. That much is for sure. So yeah, he hates losing so badly for sure. For sure he does. So yeah, it was a big thing. Um, has the 8 million in add-ons been triggered for Rasmus? I actually have no idea, to be quite honest. I actually have no idea. That much I do not know. Um, yeah, that much I do not know. I'm actually unsure of that. Sorry, I was just looking at something. Um, no, but yeah, that's kind of where things are at with Ruben Amorim and his big push. Now, moving to kind of the striker situation and the reality of all of this. Obviously, the biggest things here are Ekitike and Gyökeres. Now, David Ornstein in his, you know, so weird. David Ornstein in his sorry about that. In his thing said that when he talked about Ekitike, he pretty much played it down quite a bit. Um, he said that United have done some checks on it. He called it due diligence and things like that, but said that we he did some due diligence and things, but he said that you know just because they checked on him doesn't mean they're actually going for him. And he definitely played it down quite a bit. Um, when you look at the talk of the Devils thing as well, they really didn't talk about Ekitike like at all. And so, realistically, all that's happened is we've checked on the situation, asked about it just to understand it. But as David Ornstein said, it's like due diligence. That they're just doing their job, their due diligence. You said the same a couple days ago. Yeah, exactly. And I like I said, I think it's been taken and run with a bit further than it is. They're not negotiating. They're not working on a deal for him. They're not even really strongly in for him. They've just kind of checked at it. And he also said that there's some other, there's a bunch of other clubs in for him, including Liverpool, including Chelsea, and wouldn't be necessarily even choosing United. In addition to that, the other guy that was on with him was the German correspondent, who said that they really do need, they're asking for 100 million and they're unlikely to change it, I suppose. They're not so likely to do much else with it. They're going to keep it at that price. And David Ornstein said maybe there'd be some flexibility in the overall, like, what do you call it, structure of it, but otherwise, it's going to be about that. And then he also said they really don't have to sell. So I think it's been played up. I think it's been played up kind of a lot more than it is. Not to say the interest again isn't genuine and that we haven't asked about him and asked about the price and such, but again, just it's pretty much just that. And then, on Gyökeres, one of the things that was they did confirm, which I didn't know why they'd said it before. On Talk of the Devils, they said the only reason they were kind of ruling out Gyökeres before was because of the Europe thing, about whether he would join without Europe. And so it really just comes down to Arsenal. And where we're at the moment, pretty simply, is on the striker front, we're kind of waiting. We're just going to wait it out a little bit. I think we keep checking on some players and we wait it out and see what happens. If do Frankfurt come way down on their price and then we decide to maybe be more serious about it? Does Arsenal move for Šeško and then the path is clear for Victor Gyokeres? Yeah, I'm. It is interesting because I also hear that their suggestion, like, okay, we've got these couple of forwards, and then do we actually need a striker in that case? Well, yes, but if we don't get one, could we platoon it and not necessarily buy a striker? And that is a serious question, and it is kind of sounding like maybe that's the case. If they can't get the guy they want, then maybe they don't buy a striker. And I get that logic. I get that logic too. It's better to not buy than to spend money that doesn't work later on, you know? So hopefully we don't do anything silly, there as well. But it sounds like that might be the way we look at it. Now, the rumor today is that George Mendes has entered into the equation. And I really do wonder what would happen there. If you want to wait for Arsenal, let's move on. But move on to what? You know, like I said, I compare it to the Lenioro situation. Lenioro was waiting for Madrid for months, and then they never came. And then we forced the deal by agreeing a fee with his club and saying now or never, and convinced him. So I don't know, man. Beyond that, like, don't know. It's tricky. It's hard to say like what else could happen here. But yeah, I'm not so worried about it. But it is interesting to see what happens with Mendes. If Mendes is involved, then something's gonna move at some point in time here. Whatever it may be, something is going to happen. Something is going to change. That's the truth of it. So we'll see on that front if but if Mendes is involved, then things start happening. Always the case. Um, Daily Gyokeres is angry at X headline. Had nothing to do with Europe. Well, sure, but it had to do with not being like united being the commitment. You know what I mean? I mean, it might have had something to do with Europe. It might have been, you know, many different reasons, I suppose. On whose side is Mendes? Nobody knows. Mendes is on Mendes' side. Yeah, he just makes things happen. In Portugal, people say Yonkers is furious with Sporting. Yeah, yeah. But look, I mean, so that's the situation. We're in contact with a ton of clubs on sales, and I think we're willing to wait the striker situation out. In the meantime, ideally, we get our sales, we get some money coming in, we raise funds, we put ourselves in a better financial position. And then when the striker thing sorts, we take care of it, because we're probably not convinced of practically anybody else, out there right now that we would say, yeah, well, that's the guy we're going to go spend a bunch of money on, or that's the guy we're going to do this or that on. So I guess we'll have to see. Um, but it seems like a sensible plan anyway. In my opinion, I think that while it can be a little bit frustrating, then we just have to stay disciplined, and we'll see what else. The biggest thing I'm looking for in the next couple of weeks, or the next couple of weeks, not really a couple of weeks. Biggest thing I'm looking for in the next 7 days is the sales. Is Anthony, Sancho, Hojlund, that these ones keep moving, and hopefully we get some actual offers coming in. I don't think Osimhen is really on the table for us at all. It's just so complicated, cost wise and all of that. So. All right, guys, I'm going to end it there. Thanks for hanging out today. Don't want to take it too long. I appreciate you all for hanging out and relaxing. It's Wednesday. Few more days this week. Friday we'll do the normal thing. We'll have TTS on then for you. How many signings do you think we'll get this summer? I still think we'll get 5 in the door in the end. Watkins is a good shout. Yeah, and I think that's the type of thing where maybe a bit later in the window, when there's interest in Garnacho and this and that, some other, if we don't get one of our priority targets, then opportunities start to come forward, and we'll see at that time. Okay. All right.